There are truths so old, so deeply woven into the architecture of this world, that they were never written in any document, never stored in any archive, never whispered in any classroom discussion about history. Some things survive only through the fear of those who tried to hide them. And one of those truths is this: long before you were born, long before anyone knew your name, someone sitting in the highest seat of earthly power had already been briefed about your father. Not as a citizen, not as a resident, not as a man tied to a region or a nation, but as an anomaly. A being whose origins were not traceable to any recognized lineage on the planet. An origin that frightened the very institutions designed to control the narrative of human identity. In a sealed room beneath layers of security, surrounded by advisors and intelligence officials, the former Thronekeeper of Earth was shown a file that could not be categorized. It was not stamped with a flag. It was not linked to a passport. It was not sourced from any intelligence network. The file was simply marked with a single classification used only for things the world is not ready to explain: non-origin entity. Your father's existence destabilized what governments believed they understood about humanity's boundaries. His movements were recorded but never tracked. His presence was noted but never explained. He passed every surveillance system like someone aware he was always being watched, yet also aware that none of them could truly understand what they were observing. The Thronekeeper listened as analysts spoke in cautious tones, aware that they were describing something impossible. They talked about the anomalies. How your father showed up in places before satellites could confirm he arrived, how records showed him appearing in hospital logs without any previous medical or demographic data, how no origin record, no immigration file, no early life paper trail existed anywhere on Earth. Systems tried to classify him, but every attempt failed. Governments label what they fear, but they could not label him. And that is when the Thronekeeper leaned back, exhaled slowly, and said the words that shook the room. "He isn't from here, is he?" Silence followed. Not because no one knew, but because everyone did. And yet, even then, even at the peak of global authority, there was something they didn't anticipate. Something no file could predict. Something no intelligence report could calculate. Your father wasn't the anomaly they should have feared. You were. Because whatever he carried, whatever made the systems tremble, whatever made powerful people sit in dim rooms whispering, was inherited, and now lives in you. The truth is simple. Your father didn't just visit this world. He chose it. He chose a bloodline. He chose a doorway. He chose a child who would one day awaken with a frequency that could not be controlled, monitored, or defined. They thought he was the event, but he was only the beginning. Long before your life began to unfold, long before you ever felt different, long before you had language for the instinct that told you you were not designed like the world around you, there was a briefing held in a windowless room where the air itself felt heavy with secrecy. Intelligence officials sat around a long polished table, files stacked in front of them, each bearing the same red classification that meant, "This cannot be explained publicly." At the head of that table sat the former Thronekeeper, calm, calculating, and uncharacteristically unsettled. He had seen threats, wars, global crises, but he had never seen a file like this. Your father's name at the top, but beneath it, nothing that made sense. They presented photographs where he seemed to appear 10 years apart without aging. They displayed timestamps showing him entering secure zones without identification or authorization, bypassing systems designed to detect everything. His fingerprints changed patterns across reports. His blood work produced readings no human database recognized. and when analysts attempted to run genetic sequencing, the data came back unreadable, too ordered to be random, too complex to be human, too intentional to be an error. The silence in that room was the sound of paradigms fracturing. The Thronekeeper asked a single question: what does he want? But the analysts didn't have an answer. Because your father never behaved like a threat. He behaved like someone waiting. Waiting for a moment. Waiting for a person. Waiting for you. They observed how he avoided entanglement with institutions, how he never forged power, never manipulated structures, never attempted to influence political environments. He didn't accumulate wealth. He didn't engage in conflict. He didn't move like someone trying to take from the world. He moved like someone guiding the world toward something it wasn't ready to name. And the more they studied him, the more one detail became undeniable. He was preparing a path, not for himself, but for the child who would inherit his frequency. There were recordings, transcripts, classified notes of moments where high-ranking officials, people who believed nothing could surprise them, spoke privately about the implications. If this being has a child, one advisor said, that child will not be bound by earthly limitations. If we cannot classify him, another whispered, we will not be able to contain the offspring. The Thronekeeper nodded slowly, and then said something the room never forgot. If what he is belongs to this child, the world will adjust to them, not the other way around. They knew even then that a birth would occur that defied their framework. They expected anomalies. They expected disruption. What they did not expect was that your presence would destabilize everything quietly, gracefully, without intention, simply by existing. Systems react not to rebellion, but to authenticity. And your authenticity has never matched the world's design. Your father didn't leave you with a name. He left you with a signature, something the world's most powerful institutions recognized long before you did. And that signature is waking up in you now. They feared what he was, but they were unprepared for what you would become. The deeper the agencies dug, the more impossible your father became. They expected a man they could categorize: immigrant, operative, defector, dissident. But every pathway collapsed. Every algorithm failed. Every attempt to trace him led to a dead end that shouldn't have existed. People leave footprints. People leave shadows. People leave patterns. But he moved through the world like someone made of light, visible but untouchable, present but unrecordable, real but not local. One intelligence division tried to map his origin by studying his medical scans. What they found terrified them. His physiology didn't match any known demographic. Not abnormal, advanced. As if the blueprint of his body carried efficiencies human biology hadn't reached yet. Faster recovery, higher sensory registration, neural patterns that activated regions of the brain most people never access. They ran the data 27 times, thinking it was corrupted. But it wasn't corruption. It was revelation. And revelation demands silence. When they brought the scans to the former Thronekeeper, he didn't speak for several seconds. His silence wasn't confusion, it was recognition. A recognition that comes from someone who has seen more than he was ever allowed to admit publicly. Someone who had been shown things behind closed doors that confirmed humanity was not the only intelligence interacting with this planet. And then he asked a question that no one in the room expected. Has he ever displayed hostility? No, they answered. He avoids conflict entirely. He shields people, if anything. He acts like someone aware of dangers we cannot perceive. That final line shook the room. It suggested what they feared most. Your father wasn't reacting to them. He was reacting to something beyond them. Something the agencies didn't have sensors for. Something they couldn't name. This pushed the Thronekeeper into the second question, the one that changed everything. Does he have a child? A murmur swept the room. They didn't know. And not knowing was more dangerous than any confirmed threat. So they searched. Not illegally, not aggressively, but with caution. They tracked associations, addresses, anomalies that intersected with his movement. And that's when they noticed patterns around your mother. Not suspicious patterns, protected ones. Energy around her life that didn't match any normal probability curve. Avoided accidents, narrowly missed dangers. People showing up at the right place at the right time. Systems glitching when threats came near. Files around her life occasionally rewriting themselves as if reality was rearranging to shield her. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. It was preparation. When surveillance finally confirmed the impossible, that she was pregnant, the analysts documented an internal phrase that still sits in their archived logs. The heir of the non-origin entity has entered formation. They didn't know what that meant, not fully. But they knew one thing. Your father had not come here alone. He came here with intention, with design, with destiny. He didn't protect her because she was fragile. He protected her because you were already awakening in her, long before you had a name, long before you opened your eyes. The Thronekeeper closed the file then, leaned forward, and whispered something that only the stenographer caught. The child will not belong to our world. Our world will belong to them. At that moment, the agencies stopped investigating your father, not because they lost interest, but because they realized the one they should be preparing for was you. You weren't the aftermath. You were the objective. And everything in your life that has felt different, everything that has felt misplaced, everything you've sensed but couldn't explain, that was the world responding to a presence it was never built to contain. The world had watched your father with caution, but he moved through life like someone passing through a temporary environment, never disrupting, never attaching, never resisting. He wasn't here to conquer anything. He was here to deliver something. And when you were born, the agencies finally understood. Your father was not the event your birth was. Every unexplained movement he made, every location he appeared in, every quiet disappearance, every moment he seemed to be observing rather than participating, those were not signs of evasion. They were signs of alignment. He was waiting for your arrival because whatever his origin was, whatever intelligence shaped him, it encoded something extraordinary into you. It started subtly. Hospital sensors glitched when your heart rate was monitored. Temperature readings fluctuated outside the normal range. A nurse reported that your eyes tracked motion earlier than any newborn she had ever seen. A camera installed in the neonatal unit froze every time someone tried to zoom in on your crib. None of it was dramatic, just a soft hum of anomalies that didn't match medical expectations. But anomalies, in the intelligence world, are signals. And your signal didn't match your father's. It surpassed it. You didn't inherit his identity. You inherited his difference. And that difference amplified itself the older you became. Systems around you behaved unpredictably, not because they were malfunctioning, but because they were responding to your energy. People either felt strangely comforted by your presence or deeply intimidated by it, even as a child. Animals watched you with awareness. Technology glitched when your emotions rose. Teachers would say things like, "This one sees things others don't," without understanding what they meant. You grew up thinking you were simply misunderstood, but in reality you were misclassified. The former Thronekeeper received periodic updates, though your father disappeared completely after your birth. No traces, no sightings, no digital signatures. As if the moment you arrived, his mission ended. But one day, many years later, a final report reached the Thronekeeper's desk. Not about your father, but about you. A report documenting an incident where systems failed simultaneously during a moment of extreme fear you experienced. Not catastrophic failure, localized shutdown. Lights flickered. Motion detectors froze. Cameras looped. A teacher fainted. And you were just a child. The Thronekeeper read the report 3 times. Then he said something only a few people in the room ever heard. This one is carrying more than the father ever did. That was the day they stopped tracking anomalies. That was the day they stopped asking questions. Not because they lost interest, but because they understood that no institution on Earth had the framework to study you properly. You weren't a phenomenon to be measured. You were a timeline forming, a presence unfolding, a destiny the world was not built to contain. But the most important detail is this. You did not know. You were just living, growing, feeling different, feeling unseen, feeling misunderstood, never knowing those feelings weren't personal struggles. They were symptoms of a world reacting to someone not designed to fit inside it. You're not broken. You're not out of place. You're not strange. You are simply not from here. Not in origin, not in function, and not in destiny. And the day the world realizes this is the day it will finally understand why even the highest seats of power reacted the moment you arrived. All your life, you've carried signs, subtle, persistent signals, that you weren't constructed within the same blueprint as everyone around you. You dismissed them as personality quirks, sensitivities, inner intensity, intuition. But none of it was random. They were markers, identifiers, traces of an origin the world could not explain because it wasn't shaped by this world in the first place. You've always sensed things seconds before they happened. Not predictions, pre-awareness. A silent download in your mind that told you who to avoid, when to leave a room, when someone's intentions were false. You didn't guess correctly. You recognized patterns at a level most humans can't access. The agencies studying your father documented the same phenomenon in him. It wasn't learned behavior. It was embedded intelligence, an instinct from elsewhere. You always felt like you were watching humanity rather than fully belonging to it. Not in an arrogant way, never superiority, but a quiet distance like someone observing a species while deeply caring for it. You understood emotions you hadn't lived. You recognized pain you never experienced. You knew truths you were never taught. That is not the trait of someone from here. That is the trait of someone carrying memory that did not originate in a human lifetime. Your dreams, too, those weren't dreams. They were transmissions, landscapes you've never visited but feel familiar. Symbols no one taught you but you instinctively understand. Beings with no faces yet total presence. Journeys where you wake up with answers you didn't have before. People from Earth dream in fragments. You dream in architecture, full sequences, coherent messages, structured guidance. That is inherited from your father. And it is one of the reasons the world's oldest institutions felt a shift the moment you were born. Your childhood sensitivity, the way loud sounds overwhelmed you, how you noticed tension in a room before anyone spoke, how you absorbed emotions like signals, was not weakness. It was calibration. Your nervous system is wired like a receiver. Your body was built as an instrument of perception far beyond human baseline. You were designed to detect more, feel more, sense more. Not because life wanted to test you, but because your purpose requires awareness beyond Earth's default. And then there's the loneliness, that quiet ache you never fully named, the feeling of being surrounded yet separate, loved yet unknown, present yet displaced. Most people feel alone because of circumstance. You felt alone because of origin. Your soul remembers something your mind has never been taught. A light, a place, a frequency that Earth cannot replicate. That remembrance has always hummed beneath your life, creating the sensation that you belong somewhere, but not here. You've spent years trying to translate that feeling into human explanation, but it was never meant to be understood logically. It was meant to be recognized spiritually. This is why your path has never matched the timelines of others. Normality was never available to you. You weren't allowed to settle. You weren't allowed to blend in. You weren't allowed to dim yourself enough to disappear into the background. Every time you tried to shrink, something pulled you forward. Every time you accepted less, life shook things apart. Every time you attached to the wrong environment, it expelled you. Not because you were cursed, because you were incompatible. You are not here to repeat history. You are here to disrupt it. You are not here to inherit the world's limitations. You are here to reveal its illusions. You are not here because of coincidence. You are here because of design. And long before anyone else suspected the truth, long before you questioned your own existence, long before your inner world began awakening, one of the most powerful men on the planet knew something no one else dared to say. Your father wasn't from Earth, and you are the proof. For years you thought your father's absence was abandonment, tragedy, or circumstance. You tried to explain it through human logic, distance, loss, separation, complexity, but none of those explanations ever felt complete. Something in you knew the story wasn't ordinary. Something in you knew the silence around him wasn't natural. Something in you sensed that his disappearance wasn't a failure, it was a strategy. Your father didn't vanish because he couldn't stay. He vanished because you couldn't awaken if he did. He carried an origin, a frequency, a form of intelligence that humanity wasn't ready to understand openly. If he remained, all eyes would have stayed on him. All investigations would have trailed him. All energy would have been directed toward containing him. And in that containment, your destiny would have been misread, mislabeled, or suppressed before it ever had space to rise. To protect the mission, he had to remove himself from the equation. He stepped out of Earth's visible reality the moment you took your first breath because you were the real objective. He knew that if you were to develop your abilities naturally, intuition, perception, resilience, spiritual sight, you needed to grow up surrounded by human experience, not overshadowed by his presence. You needed to learn struggle, emotion, separation, love, heartbreak, uncertainty, all the things that refine a being of higher origin into someone capable of carrying a purpose greater than themselves. If he stayed, you would have inherited information. By leaving, you inherited strength. And this is why every difficulty you've ever endured felt strangely purposeful. Every betrayal, every awakening, every heartbreak, every powerful intuitive shift, those weren't random events. They were initiations. They were part of the calibration he knew you needed. His absence wasn't a void. It was a training ground disguised as a childhood. It shaped you into someone who could withstand the weight of a destiny bigger than your environment. You've always wondered why certain lessons came so early and so intensely. It's because children of extraordinary origin do not get ordinary timelines. Life doesn't give them comfort, it gives them clarity. Life doesn't give them ease, it gives them identity. Life doesn't give them sameness, it gives them separation. And separation, for someone like you, is the first language of awakening. While you grew, the agencies kept trying to track him, never with hostility, always with a sense of trying to understand something far above their comprehension level. But they never found him because you cannot track someone who isn't operating inside the coordinates of this dimension. They didn't realize he wasn't hiding from them. He was hiding for you. Human systems could have classified him, but they could never classify you. He disappeared because your presence required it. A being like your father cannot exist openly on Earth without altering global frameworks, religious, scientific, political, metaphysical. His existence alone bends narrative. His biology disrupts medical theory. His intelligence breaks governmental secrecy. His presence provokes fear in those who cannot control what they cannot understand. And humanity, back then, was not ready for a being like him, let alone a child born with his frequency. So he stepped away, not to abandon the mission, but to activate it. He placed the entire timeline into your hand, not because he couldn't carry it, but because you were born to. This planet was never meant to react to him. It was preparing to react to you. Your life has been unfolding exactly as designed, coded in silence, protected in absence, strengthened through challenge, and awakened at the perfect time. You weren't meant to meet him first. You were meant to meet yourself first. And once you fully recognize what you are, the world will understand why even the former thronekeeper whispered the truth. The child will change more than the father ever did. Your father did not arrive here by accident, exile, or exploration. He didn't fall into this world the way stories romanticize interdimensional beings. He entered Earth with precision, carrying knowledge, carrying memory, carrying a mission that required him to exist quietly in a realm far less advanced than his origin. And yet, for all his power, he moved through this world with humility, restraint, and an awareness that every step he took had consequences far beyond what humans could detect. Earth was not chosen randomly. It was chosen strategically. Long before your birth, long before your father's arrival, long before anyone living today had a name, this planet began shifting. There was an imbalance forming, energetic, emotional, spiritual. Cycles of conflict, patterns of fear, generational wounds that kept repeating. And though humanity blamed politics, systems, or circumstances, the truth was deeper. Earth had fallen out of alignment with its original trajectory. Your father came to correct that trajectory, not by force, not by domination, but by planting a frequency that could restore what was lost. And that frequency was you. He knew a being like him could not alter the world directly. His presence was too powerful, too disruptive, too far beyond comprehension. If he interfered openly, humanity would collapse into fear or worship, neither of which promotes evolution. So instead, he chose a subtler path, incarnation through lineage, creating a bridge, embedding intelligence into a child who would grow up human enough to be accepted, yet extraordinary enough to shift reality from within. You weren't an experiment. You weren't a mistake. You weren't destiny's side effect. You were the mission. Your father didn't come here to change the world. He came here to create someone who would. And because of that, he had to choose a mother whose heart could hold your frequency without breaking. A soul strong enough to anchor you. A woman whose intuition, compassion, and resilience formed the perfect vessel for a being not fully shaped by this planet. You weren't simply born, you were calibrated. The intelligence agencies never understood this part. They thought your father came here out of curiosity or espionage, unable to grasp the magnitude of his purpose. They only saw anomalies, not intention. They only saw evidence, not prophecy. But your father wasn't wandering. He wasn't observing in confusion. He wasn't trying to adapt. He was preparing the world for you. Every place he visited, every person he spoke to, every energy he interacted with, he was stabilizing the environment into which you would later awaken. He was laying groundwork, not for his stay, but for your rise. You are not a reaction to your father's origin. You are the fulfillment of it. This is why you've always felt two truths at once. You belong to Earth, and yet you don't. You feel connected to humanity, yet separate from its patterns. You understand emotions deeply, yet struggle to be understood. You sense purpose, yet cannot fit into conventional roles. These contradictions didn't come from trauma or personality, they came from design. Your father didn't leave because his mission ended. He left because your mission began. If he had stayed, he would have overshadowed you. If he had stayed, he would have disrupted your identity formation. If he had stayed, the world would have interpreted your power as his influence rather than your nature. You needed anonymity to awaken authentically. And anonymity is exactly what he created. But even after he departed from this dimension, traces of him remained inside you. In your intuition, in your emotional depth, in your resilience, in your ability to sense truths long before others speak them. These are not traits you learned. They are traits you inherited. Your father didn't come to Earth to be seen. He came so you could be seen at the right moment. And that moment is approaching faster than you realize. Your life has never unfolded randomly, and the moments that felt chaotic, disruptive, or painfully timed were not accidents, they were activators. Your father didn't leave you a message you could hold in your hands. He left you a message built into your timing, encoded inside your spiritual and emotional DNA. This year feels different because something inside you has begun to open, something you've carried since birth, but were never meant to access too early. The sudden clarity you feel, the intense shifts in your intuition, the sense of being pulled away from certain people, places, and versions of yourself isn't change, it's ignition. You are not becoming someone new, you are remembering someone ancient. Your father embedded a multi-phase awakening within you, designed to activate only once your inner world reached a certain maturity and Earth reached a specific frequency. This activation doesn't look like a dramatic event. It looks like your emotions sharpening, your boundaries transforming, your dreams becoming messages instead of noise, your instincts becoming louder than logic. You begin to recognize patterns before they form, feel truth without needing evidence, and detach from things that no longer match your frequency. Human lives evolve through learning. Your life evolves through unlocking. You are not shifting because of external circumstances. You are shifting because the inner code he left inside you has begun to fire. He created this activation sequence because your mission required you to first understand humanity intimately, its pain, its tendencies, its illusions, before stepping into the identity you were born with. If your awakening had arrived too early, you would have been feared, misunderstood, or silenced. If it arrived too late, the world wouldn't be ready for you. So the sequence was set to begin when your strength, your awareness, and the planet's energy all intersected. That intersection is now. This is why environments feel unstable, why people react strangely to your presence, why you sense truths others cannot feel, why the world seems louder and more symbolic than ever. Your activation unfolds in stages. First comes disruption. The collapse of your old identity, old relationships, old beliefs, anything built on survival instead of purpose. Then comes recognition. the dawning awareness that you are not changing, you are awakening, and everything you suspected about your difference was real. And finally, emergence. The stage you are entering now, where your presence alone begins influencing outcomes, environments, and timelines. You don't try to change things, your energy alters them by existing. That is not imagination. That is design. Your father didn't remain on Earth because your awakening needed space to rise naturally. He didn't leave you unprotected. He left you encoded. Every heartbreak strengthened a layer of your activation. Every betrayal refined your discernment. Every moment of collapse emptied you of the noise that would have muted your gift. Every success reminded you of your inheritance. Your life wasn't random, it was calibrated. And the sequence is now in motion. Somewhere beyond the limits of this dimension, your father feels that ignition. He knows the child he left behind is no longer dormant. He knows the blueprint he carried across worlds is finally alive inside you. You are not waking up for yourself. You are waking up because the purpose he came here to seed is now needed. The world is entering the exact moment he prepared you for, and everything within you is aligning to meet it. You are not here to fit in. You are here to shift the architecture of consciousness. You are not here to follow history. You are here to correct its trajectory. You are not here because Earth needed another person. You are here because Earth needed you. And somewhere, in a place untouched by time, your father knows you've reached the moment he prepared you for. He knows the activation is complete. He knows the hidden lineage he carried into this world is now awake. He knows the child he protected through silence, distance, and dimensional retreat has risen into their identity. You are not the aftermath of his story. You are the continuation of it. You are the mission fulfilled. You are the answer delivered. And the world, whether it's ready or not, is about to encounter exactly why even the highest seats of power once whispered the truth. Your father wasn't from here, and now neither are you.